In a realm where sorcery permeates daily existence, we encounter a remarkably powerful lad in the forest. This boy, named Mash, stands in defiance of the world's natural order. Dwelling in a secluded hut with his father Burndeed, they relish a life of solitude. Returning home, Mash often shatters the door, forgetting whether to push or pull. This vexes Burndeed, but Mash always vows to repair the damage. His attempts, however, only exacerbate the ruin as he pounds the door against its frame. Following this, they share tea, revealing Mash's unique nature. He is devoid of magic. To compensate, Burndeed has focused on strengthening his body, a fact unknown to Mash, who remains puzzled by his purely physical training. Burndeed departs, cautioning Mash to avoid the city. Yet, as soon as his father is gone, Mash dashes to the city, cloaked in secrecy, eager to taste a limited edition cream puff from the bakery. Roaming the city, he observes the populace wielding magic, but dismisses it as trivial, believing that hands alone could achieve the same feats. Mash reaches the bakery and becomes excited, ordering some cream puffs. But as he pays, all the coins are bent, because he had clenched his fist when he had gotten too excited. But the baker thinks that the coins shouldn't be bent so easily. Mash fixes them up, straightening them to their original form, and the baker freaks out. After a while, Mash gets his food, but the winds blow, revealing his face to the public, and everyone is surprised because he doesn't have any marks on his face. Meanwhile, we see an officer named Brad at the police station. He reads a newspaper about this year's Divine Visionary, a title given to the top student of the Magic Academy, which also comes with a number of promotions and rewards. The phone rings, and he is informed about a man walking around the city with no mark on his face. As Mash meanders through the bustling streets, he ponders why everyone is staring at him, all the while savoring his cream puffs. He accidentally collides with a drunken officer named Terry, smearing cream on the officer's uniform and angering him. In a fit of rage, Terry knocks the treat from Mash's hands and continues to berate him. Mash, with good intentions, tears off the officer's uniform, promising to clean it for him. Just then, Brad appears, questioning Terry's nudity. He scrutinizes Mash, suspecting him to be the individual mentioned in a recent report. Suddenly, Burndeed arrives, seizes his son, and flees. Brad summons a magical bird to pursue them. But once home, Burndeed chastises Mash for defying his warning about venturing into the city. Despite his anger, Burndeed forgives Mash, but imposes a grueling workout as punishment. As Mash heads out to train, Burndeed reflects on his son's good nature, understanding his curiosity about the city after a lifetime of seclusion in the forest. Burndeed thinks about how to deal with the police when he sees Brad's bird watching him from his window. Brad suddenly arrives with his men, asking Burndeed where his son is. We see Mash training in the woods, lifting the weight like it's nothing, and completing his workout in 5 minutes. He heads back home, but just as he is about to open the door, he hears Brad as he explains that magic has flourished because they have gotten rid of all the people who can't use magic, calling it a necessary sacrifice for a better world. Brad pushes Burndeed, telling him that sheltering the unmarked is a serious offense, but Burndeed refuses to tell them about his son's whereabouts. In a flashback, we learn that Burndeed has always been treated as a failure in everything that he does. This goes on until adulthood, and he thinks about taking his own life, when suddenly he hears a baby Mash crying. He realizes that the baby was abandoned because he had no mark, thinking that they are both unwanted by society, so he decides to raise the baby as his own. In the present, Burndeed bellows for Mash to flee, prompting Brad to assault him mercilessly. Just as Brad is about to deliver the final blow, Mash bursts through the door, striking one of the officers and sending him flying. Terry approaches Mash, but Mash tears off Terry's uniform, slapping him repeatedly until he crumbles to the ground. Mash declares that he stayed because Burndeed is his only family. Brad scoffs, confident that Mash stands no chance without magic. He unleashes a spell strong enough to drive away a dragon, but Mash effortlessly deflects it with a single hand, leaving Brad in disbelief. Brad follows with an even stronger spell, but Mash swats it away, causing it to explode in the distance. Terry continues his magical onslaught, but Mash deflects the attacks, seemingly enjoying himself. Mash seizes his father's wand while Brad erects a barrier, assuming Mash is about to use magic. Instead, Mash hurls the wand at Brad, shattering the barrier and bringing Brad to his knees. Mash threatens to kill him the next time he threatens his family, but Brad proposes a deal where Mash will enroll in a magic academy and become a divine visionary so that society will accept him, saying that he will back Mash up because he wants the reward that comes with it. He claims that if they don't accept his deal, they'll be hunted down for the rest of their lives. So Mash agrees to the deal. Mash goes to the prestigious Easton Magic Academy with a fake mark on his face, where he will take the entrance exam that is notoriously difficult, with a passing rate of less than 3%. A man named Lucci looks at the applicants gathered on the field, recognizing some of their faces, when he suddenly hears a loud noise and he sees Mash lifting weights like it's paper, making him confused because that is not the place for him to work out. Lucci calms himself down, looking at the field again, where he sees Mash reading a fitness book while doing the invisible chair, and he even notices Brad and Bernadette behind him, who are trying to keep an eye on Mash. With a grand flourish, Lucci arrives, proclaiming that he will oversee the exam. The students are left in awe, recognizing him as a prodigiously talented mage. Flattered by their reaction, Lucci grows irked when Mash remarks on his overly dramatic entrance. Determined to make Mash fail, Lucci announces the start of the first exam, instructing everyone to take their seats as he uses a spell to prepare the venue, leaving the students amazed. Unimpressed, Mash points out that they could have simply gone to a room that was already prepared, deepening Lucci's disdain for him. The exam begins, and the applicants find their papers difficult to read as the questions shift around the page. It becomes clear that Lucci has enchanted the papers with magic, requiring the students to dispel the enchantment to pass. Brad and Bernadette believe Mash is doomed, but Mash commands the words to stop moving, crushing his pen in the process, causing the words to arrange themselves out of fear. He completes the test early, and Lucci is astonished to see that everything is perfectly aligned. Mash continues to use his superhuman abilities to pass the other parts of the exam, making everyone surprised, while Lucci thinks of a way to eliminate him. Lucci causes a maze to appear from the ground, giving the examinees 30 minutes to reach the goal. A girl named Lemon approaches Mash, wanting to tag along with him, so they start walking together, but she keeps on falling for the traps, and Mash realizes that she is useless. While his back is turned, she uses a spell to restrain him with cuffs, telling him that there is a reason why she needs to keep him away from the goal. But Mash easily breaks free and dashes off, because he also has his reasons to pass the test. After he leaves, a creature approaches Lemon, asking her a riddle, but she fails to answer it, so it attacks her. But Mash punches the creature, knocking it out with a single punch. Lemon wonders why he saved her, and Mash explains that they must be there for a similar reason, so he feels sorry for her. She is worried that they won't be able to complete the maze in time, but Mash has a plan. Meanwhile, Lucci remains confident that Mash will fail, but the ground begins to tremble, and loud noises fill the air. Suddenly, the wall collapses as Mash makes his entrance, having destroyed the maze to create his own path. The other successful examinees accuse him of cheating and demand he go home, but Lemon steps in, revealing that it wasn't Mash's fault. She confesses that Lucci promised her admission to the school if she hindered Mash. Lucci admits this, expressing his dislike for Mash as he unleashes his magical powers. He declares that both Mash and Lemon will fail, daring them to challenge his decision. In response, Mash crushes Lucci's wand with his fist, telling the professor he has gone too far. At that moment, Headmaster Wahlberg arrives, announcing that the final interview is about to begin and that he will now act as the examiner. Mash is the first applicant to be interviewed, so he is taken to a room where he is surrounded by school officials. He is asked a few questions, and the officials don't seem to like his answers. However, the headmaster finds him interesting, asking him why he saved the girl in the maze, even though he didn't have enough time left. Mash tells him that he had a feeling that he would regret not saving her, and Wahlberg realizes that Mash is the type to act before thinking, explaining that there are creatures stronger than him, and he wonders if Mash would act that way if faced with such a creature. Wahlberg uses his magic to summon a large creature that threatens to harm a doll, which contains the soul of the person that is dearest to Mash, who is obviously burned dead. Mash tries to stop it by punching it, but it does nothing and his hand starts bleeding. The school officials are astonished when he uses his bare hands to halt the blade from striking the doll. He knows the creature will eventually vanish, planning to outlast it. Wahlberg realizes Mash is destined to shield the weak and challenge the mighty, so he recalls the creature and illuminates the chamber, revealing that Mash was merely undergoing a test. He welcomes Mash to Easton Magic Academy. Later, in class, they learn a basic lock opening spell. The teacher demonstrates it, but Mash destroys the lock with his hands, enraging the teacher because he didn't use magic. Mash explains he's not skilled with magic, while the boy next to him, Finn, begins to see him as a troublemaker. After class, Finn looks for his dorm, hoping Mash is not going to be his roommate. He finds his room, but the door is missing, and he sees Mash holding on to it, making him realize that they are going to be sharing the room. They get to know each other, and Finn starts to think that Mash is just a normal guy, but he suddenly introduces Finn to his muscles, making him think he is a weirdo. Mash asks Finn if he can borrow his broom for the next class, since he brought a giant plant root instead, thinking it was a broom. Finn allows it, and the next day, the teacher trains them to fly with the broom. Mash tries to do it, but the broom won't respond to him, so he gets ridiculed by a student, saying that he's slowing the class down. But Mash stomps his foot and causes the broom to fly into his hand. The student brands him a cheater, claiming he didn't use magic, as the teacher announces a time trial to test the student's broom flying speed. The boy challenges Mash to a race, with the loser serving the winner until graduation. Mash accepts, and they ready themselves. The instructor doubts Mash can even ride his broom, but she starts the race anyway. Mash wins instantly, setting a new world record with his speed. Everyone is bewildered, not even seeing Mash move, but Finn saw Mash hurl the broom forward and leap onto it mid-air. The student accuses Mash of cheating again, but Mash pities him and drops the bet. The boy keeps running his mouth until a student named Cavill, notorious for causing trouble, sews it shut with magic. Cavill apologizes on his friend's behalf, but everyone knows he's a troublemaker, leaving them worried that Mash has become a new target. Cavill introduces himself to Mash, but Mash mishears his name as Cabbage, making everyone fall silent. Cavill prepares to cast a spell, but the teacher interrupts, reminding them that they are in the middle of class. So Cavill tells him to meet him after class, and he leaves the scene. As they make their way back to their room, Finn reveals that Cavill is the son of a high-ranking member at the Bureau of Magic. He adds that Mash will get expelled if he messes with Cavill, since his family has close ties with the vice principal, and Finn has actually seen students suffer because of Cavill, so he understands why everyone is scared of him. Mash starts baking cream puffs on his own, enjoying the experience, while Cavill is waiting for him at the field and becomes upset that Mash isn't showing up. The following day, Mash pulls out his book for class, but it's in terrible condition. Cavill approaches, asking why Mash didn't attend earlier, and Mash apologizes, explaining he was busy making cream puffs, which annoys Cavill. Cavill asks if Mash wants to become the Divine Visionary, claiming he can help achieve this goal through his connection with the vice principal if Mash will follow his orders. Mash agrees immediately, becoming Cavill's lapdog and following his every command. As Mash prepares for his next class, he finds that his book on the subject is also in bad shape. Finn reluctantly agrees to share his book, and Mash feels fortunate to have a friend like Finn. Mash gives Cavill some water, but he pours it on the floor, ordering Mash to clean it up. As Mash cleans the floor, it's revealed that Cavill was ordering Finn to tamper with Mash's books, but he is getting bored, so he wants Finn to burn Mash's clothes. Finn refuses to obey, so Cavill uses his magic to bring Finn to his knees and beat him up. After some time, Mash arrives at the scene, asking Cavill what he's doing. Cavill claims he just wants to get an apology from Finn, who starts crying as he confesses that he ruined Mash's books under Cavill's orders, apologizing for his actions. Cavill asks Mash if he wants to have dinner with the vice principal, but Mash goes to him and bashes his head against the floor, instantly knocking him out. Finn tells Mash that he is going to get expelled, making him realize that he is in trouble. The vice principal, Farman, suddenly arrives, revealing that Cavill's father entrusted him to look after his son. Farman, having witnessed the entire incident, calls it a violent attack against Cavill and announces a school conference to discuss the matter. He asserts that their status is inferior to Cavill's, warranting special treatment, and even calls them idiots. As he continues to rant, Mash rushes over and delivers a knee strike to his face, leaving the others horrified. Mash explains that since Farman isn't open to reason, it makes sense to beat him up since he's already in trouble. Farman threatens to expel Mash and attempts to cast a spell, but Mash slaps dirt in his face. Mash then digs a hole, slams Farman into it, and begins covering it up. Farman warns that Mash won't get away with this, but Mash threatens to bury him alive. After that, he is summoned by the headmaster, who tells him that he just received a notice from the Bureau of Magic to have him expelled. We learned that the Bureau of Magic is the highest legal authority in the land, and the divine visionaries produced by the Academy are at its core. He reminds Mash about Cavill's status, but he burns the notice because he doesn't want good people to be put at a disadvantage. Wahlberg rants about the current status of the world, since it only serves the elites. He thinks that it needs more people like Mash who are willing to sacrifice themselves to do the right thing, and he even wants Mash to become a divine visionary someday. Mash mentions how he plans to become one, so the headmaster explains the way to become one, but Mash can't handle all the information. So Wahlberg decides to keep it simple, telling him that he just needs to earn high marks and gather as many coins as possible. He assures Mash that he will handle the bureau and the vice principal, and Mash takes his leave. The next day, the captain of the Duello team, Tom, invites him to represent their dorm in a game much like Quidditch from Harry Potter. Mash says he can't ride a broom, but Tom doesn't believe him and drags him into the team. During the match, the enemy grabs possession of the ball, and Mash remains on the ground, reiterating that he can't ride a broom. The crowd thinks he isn't even trying, so they jeer and throw things at him. His team is getting wrecked, and Tom goes to him to explain the rules of the game. We learn that they need to pass the ball through the enemy's ring to earn points, and the use of magic is forbidden since the game is all about broom technique. Tom is about to get back to the game when the enemy captain intentionally bumps into him, causing him to fall. Mash checks up on him, and Tom seems to have broken some bones, asking the enemy captain about his sense of sportsmanship. But the enemy captain doesn't care, revealing that winning is all that matters to him. Before getting back into the game, Tom knows that their team is about to lose, but he tells Mash that winning isn't everything, and that giving one's best is even more important. They are 50 points behind, making the enemy captain think that they are about to win, but they seem to have enraged Mash, who grabs onto his broom and jumps into the air. He maintains his altitude by rapidly kicking around, leaving the spectators confused. He gains possession of the ball while the enemy team charges toward him, but he uses his inhuman strength to throw the ball, blowing them away and scoring a point. The crowd is surprised as the ball circles around, returning to Mash like a boomerang. He keeps repeating the same move to score more points, while everyone watches on in disbelief. Their score eventually reaches 999, making them the winners, and the Academy recognizes their score as a record, and they are given silver coins as a reward. Finn thinks his performance was incredible, but Mash doesn't want to play that game again. Tom gives him a hug, thanking him for helping the team win. Later, a student named Lance is seen reading a newspaper where he learns about Mash's retirement. He recognizes Mash from the entrance exam and destroys his picture, making Mash his next target. During class, Tom pesters Mash into practicing for their game, while Lemon wants to study with him, but Mash isn't interested in spending time with them. At that moment, Lance appears, and Lemon recognizes him as the student who topped the entrance exam. Lance wants to do something fun, pulling out a special magical tool and opening it, causing Mash's friends to disappear as they are trapped inside the bottle. Lance tells Mash to go to the forest if he wants them back, and then disappears. They meet at the forest, where Lance reveals he is also collecting coins, showing 2 silver coins. We learn that most people only have one magic line on their face, but there are rare cases when a person has more magic lines, indicating that they have greater magical power. Lance challenges Mash to a duel, where they each bet 1 silver coin, and Mash accepts the duel. So Lance pulls out his wand, using a spell to prepare the area for their duel. After he has cleared the area, Mash tries to attack him with his fists, but Lance uses a gravity spell to slam him to the ground. Mash struggles as he tries to stand, while Lance tells him that no human can withstand his spell, but Mash punches through the ground, pulling out giant roots and splitting the earth beneath his opponent, driving him back. Lance fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the sheer might of Mash's formidable strength as Mash advanced with alarming speed. Desperately, Lance cast his gravity spell again, but Mash's swiftness allowed him to evade it and strike back. Lance barely dodged the powerful blows, and in the chaos, his necklace fell to the ground. Mash, curious, picked it up and discovered a picture of Lance's sister inside. Lance, his voice heavy with emotion, admitted his deep devotion to her, pleading with Mash to return the necklace. He posed a profound question: what is the most important thing in the world? Though Mash thought of cream puffs, Lance corrected him, declaring that his little sister was the only true answer, causing Mash to view him with suspicion. Lance then threatened to hurl Mash's friends off a cliff to secure victory in their contest. Through a poignant flashback, it was revealed that Lance's sister suffered from an incurable illness that would rob her of her magical powers. In a world where the powerless were condemned, Lance aspired to become a divine visionary, hoping to rescue his sister from such a grim fate. Back in the present, Lance drops the bottle, using a magic spell to accelerate its descent, but Mash changes into his workout gear. He gets into starting position and dashes forward, moving so fast that he disappears before his enemy's eyes. Lance tries to look for him, and Mash suddenly appears behind him. He can't believe that Mash managed to recover the bottle so quickly, thinking he must be using magic. But Mash is no longer interested in fighting because he knows that Lance is not a bad guy, pointing out that the bottle he dropped was empty. He rushes towards Lance, managing to grab the real bottle, and he frees his friends. Lance concedes the duel, handing over his silver coin before leaving. As he walks away, Mash realizes that Lance is actually a pretty good guy, and his friends surround him, thanking him for saving them. We learn that there are 3 dorms at the academy that divide the students based on their characteristics. At the academy, 3 dorms stand in fierce rivalry: Adler, symbolizing courage; Orca, embodying wisdom; and Lang, representing ambition. Mash gathers his silver coins, revealing that 5 silver coins are equal to 1 gold coin. While relaxing with Finn, they realize in a panic that they've forgotten their potions assignment. Lance appears, chastising them for their negligence and warning that they're jeopardizing Adler's reputation. Mash, however, uses his necklace to distract Lance, who faints at the sight of his beloved sister. Once recovered, Lance decides to assist them, presenting a screaming mandrake essential for their assignment. This plant, after being silenced, serves as a valuable ingredient. Lance demonstrates the spell to put the mandrake to sleep and encourages them to try. Finn attempts the spell but fails, and Mash attributes this to Finn's weak core muscles. However, when Mash tries the spell, his mandrake reacts chaotically. Lance gives Finn some pointers, telling him to focus his magic on a single point, and Finn manages to put his mandrake to sleep. But meanwhile, Mash's mandrake has become huge, going on a rampage, but Mash just gives it a slap and knocks it out. Lance moves on to preparing the mandrake, saying it's pretty easy, showing them how it's done, cooking it up, and creating a potion. Finn thinks it's not easy at all, but Mash is confident, saying it's no problem since it doesn't require any magic. So he repeats the steps that Lance showed him, but he ends up making a cream puff instead. Lance thinks he is messing around, so he watches Mash and guides him step by step, but it still turns out as a cream puff, which leaves Lance completely confused. And despite all his attempts, it always comes out as a cream puff. But they are actually pretty good. We see Headmaster Wahlberg as he thinks about the upcoming cross-dorm, off-campus class, wondering if Mash will be okay. We see a student named Barrett as he bumps into some other students. They tell him off, but he ends up beating them all up, and he calls them side characters. Meanwhile, at the Lang dormitory, a belief persists that those in power must wield it overwhelmingly. They deem the Adler dorm unworthy, prompting their leader to command the confiscation of all Adler students' coins. The following day, the Lang and Adler dorms convene for a joint class in the forest. Mash wonders about the day's lesson when Barrett, causing a commotion, loudly claims he's the protagonist. Mash finds him peculiar, but Barrett sees Mash as a mere side character based on his appearance. Just then, Lemon arrives, asking if she can accompany Mash. Barrett, irritated, spits on Mash, ranting about how girls' attention on guys like Mash hinders his chances of finding a girl, dreaming of joining the bureau to eliminate all attractive men. The group disregards him, further fueling his annoyance. The professor then appears, revealing their next task. They must eliminate 4 scorpions and retrieve the stones embedded in their heads. Regular stones are worth a bronze coin, but the stronger scorpions have a square stone, which is worth a silver coin. The professor sends them off, and Mash is aiming for a silver coin. He is suddenly approached by a student named Silva who witnessed his feat during his Dweller Mash, but reminds him he is nothing as he attacks Mash with a pillar of iron. The professor breaks things up, and Silva claims they were just messing around. Mash glares at him, but Lance ends up stopping him, revealing that Silva is actually a year older than them, but since he was a troublemaker, he was held back for a year. Lance warns him to avoid Silva, but Mash is just glad his cream puff didn't get squished. They head into the forest, and Lance thinks they should work together, but Mash disappears because he happened to zone out. He runs into Barrett, who starts freaking out, but he just slaps him. Barrett wants to fight him, but they suddenly hear a scream as we see a girl being attacked by another student. She cries for help, and there is an explosion that defeats the boy. The girl expresses her gratitude to Barrett for saving her, causing him to start freaking out. He tries to maintain his composure, but when she grabs his hand, he begins to lose it. Nearby, a defeated scorpion lies on the ground, and it seems Silva has already secured a square stone, though he appears to be after something more. The girl thanks Barrett again, and when their knees touch, Barrett becomes overwhelmed and starts slamming his head into the ground. We then discover that the girl is using a charm spell, a magic that makes anyone who finds her attractive fall madly in love with her. She attempts to enchant Mash, but he simply replies that he didn't really do anything. Shocked that her magic has no effect on him, she tries using more energy, grabbing his hand, but it still doesn't work, leaving her devastated. Barrett inquires about her predicament, and the girl explains that Silva is threatening her to use her unique magic. Barrett vows to help her, and at that moment, Silva suddenly attacks. Determined to aid the girl, Barrett confronts Silva, launching a barrage of fireballs and ending the encounter with a massive explosion. Meanwhile, we see Finn and Lemon clinging onto Lance as they cry for help, but he wonders if Mash is okay since he is being targeted by Silva. Barrett thinks he has won, but as the smoke clears, we see that Silva protected himself with his iron. He attacks Barrett with his pillar and knocks Mash's cream puff out of his hand. Silva continues to taunt them to fight him, while Mash is just stunned by the loss of his cream puff. Barrett starts to get worried, thinking there is a big difference in their magic power. He thinks Mash is no use, so he thinks it's all up to him to save the girl. Silva starts taunting him, saying his magic was weak and calling him a letdown. So he decides to give them a chance, saying if he can take 5 of his attacks, he will leave the girl alone, even wagering a silver coin in accordance with the rules of the academy. The girl thinks it's a ridiculous deal, saying he could get seriously injured, but Barrett accepts it, thinking he can withstand 5 hits. However, Silva declares that Mash is part of the agreement and must consent as well. Barrett argues that Mash is uninvolved, but Silva insists, prompting Barrett to bravely decide to endure all 10 attacks to protect Mash. Silva, deeming Barrett insane, unleashes his Iron Fist spell. With just one blow, Barrett is on his knees, but manages to rise. Silva's relentless iron pillars continue to pummel Barrett while the girl and Mash watch. After enduring 9 brutal strikes, Barrett remains standing, driven by the girl's pleas for help. Silva readies an especially powerful blow for the final strike. The blow lands, knocking Barrett out. As Silva gloats, Barrett astonishingly rises again. He confronts Silva, declaring it over, before collapsing, and Silva mocks him as a fool. Barrett tells Mash to take the girl and run, but it's revealed that the girl is actually working with Silva as she calls him cheesy and says that she hates guys like him. Silva laughs at him for being so easily tricked, but his mouth is suddenly stuffed with a cream puff. Mash thinks they have gone too far and decides to join the fight, saying that he will join the 10-hit challenge, telling Silva to bring it on. Meanwhile, we see his friends manage to take out a scorpion, but Lance wonders if Mash will be okay. Lemon thinks he will be fine, since he even beat the professor during their entrance exam, but Lance explains there are different types of magic users. There are white mages that are more academic and support-focused, and there are red mages that focus on combat, and Mash has really only gone up against white mages so far. He thinks that if Mash were to go up against any red mage past their first year, there would be many that would surpass him. Silva sneers, believing Mash is merely putting on a brave face. He expresses his disdain for weaklings who pretend to be strong, finding delight in breaking their spirits. Noticing his robe singed from Barrett's magic, Silva readies another attack. Mash charges at him, but Silva counters, pushing Mash back and laughing arrogantly, boasting about earning 2 gold coins in his first year at the academy. He launches his magic at Mash, who endures the assault before crushing Silva's spell with his hand. Preparing to unleash his tricep magic, Mash is mocked by Silva, who continues his iron pillar attacks. However, Mash skillfully dodges and smashes through the pillars, landing a powerful punch that sends Silva sprawling and bleeding. Bewildered, Silva, confident in his top-tier magic, even among second-year students, counterattacks only to have Mash shatter through it and land another devastating blow. Silva is brought to his knees, and he starts to realize he can't win. He knows he can't take any more hits, but Mash suddenly backs away and takes a seat. Silva wonders what he is doing, and Mash tells him there are 8 more attacks to go. Mash gets back up, asking if he is ready for the next attack, but Silva knows he can't take any more, thinking he would die. He tries to think of a plan, and at that moment, an enormous scorpion suddenly appears. It has a star-shaped stone on its head, which means it's extra strong and valuable. Silva thinks he can get away while Mash is occupied by it, but Mash sends it flying with a single hit, saying he has no time to deal with it, and it drops its star-shaped stone. Silva starts freaking out, thinking Mash is a monster, but Mash calls off their fight, feeling bad for him, and he turns his attention to the girl. The girl starts panicking, and she turns on the waterworks, crying and saying that she was forced into helping Silva. But Mash tells her it's okay, and she thinks that men are just too easy to manipulate. But Mash, steadfast in his belief in equality, smashes her to the ground, leaving Barrett questioning his sanity. Rejoining his companions, Mash reassures a concerned Lemon, despite his battered appearance. Finn, astonished by Mash's triumph over the Starstone Scorpion, notes its value of 2 silver coins. Lemon insists Mash visit the nurse's office and checks on Barrett, who becomes infatuated with her despite her finding him odd. Barrett apologizes to Mash for the trouble caused and expresses gratitude, though Mash finds his behavior peculiar. Barrett, feeling slighted, threatens Mash, claiming his kindness required great effort. Suddenly, Mash's pocket radiates a glow as his silver coins merge into a gold coin. Lance mentions how they are being targeted, hearing that the Langdorm is hunting them for their coins, explaining why Silva was after them. He explains that the Langdorm is basically Slytherin, with people that value birthright and bloodlines, wanting to prevent the riffraff from joining the Bureau of Magic. He warns them to watch out for the Magia Lupus, the group of elite students from the Lang dorm. Mash mentions how he didn't even know they were separated by dorms, and Finn reminds him about the sorting ceremony. We see that right after they were accepted into the academy, they were sorted by the skeleton of a unicorn. The students grab onto its horn, and the skeleton is able to read their mind and sort them into the appropriate dorm. But when it was Mash's turn, it seems he only thinks about cream puffs. The skeleton, unnerved, struggles to sort a student for the first time in centuries. Delving deeper into the student's mind, it finds only cream puffs and concludes that those who adore cream puffs belong in the Adler dorm. Lance explains that the Magia Lupus consists of the dorm's 7 top students, with Silva likely one of their minions. He cautions Mash to be vigilant now that he possesses a coin, advising him to stay close to dorm mates. Despite this, Mash gets lost searching for his class, puzzled by whether a door is push or pull. Meanwhile, Silva grovels for forgiveness. The leader of Langdorm, Abel, holding a sinister doll, declares their mission to purge the world of impurities. Silva pleads for a second chance, but Abel deems him unworthy, even as a pawn, transforming him into a doll. The doll gets up and proceeds to get in line, and Abel claims he is the only one worthy to become the next divine visionary, as he talks to his doll, which he calls Mother. But at that moment, Mash suddenly enters, apologizing for destroying another door, and he points out that Abel is weird for talking to a doll. Abel is aware that Mash has a gold coin, and he asks him why he is trying to become a divine visionary. Mash says he just wants to live peacefully with his family, but the current world won't accept him. Abel thinks he is ridiculous and unworthy, explaining how he wants to return the world to its rightful form. He says humanity was able to flourish thanks to getting rid of the weak and people without magic, but he thinks society has started to become weak. He calls humans beasts by nature, so he plans to restore the natural order. But Mash thinks he just wants to live peacefully as well, not understanding what he was saying. Abel offers to let him go in exchange for his gold coin, but Mash resolutely refuses. In response, Abel unleashes an attack with one of his puppets. Mash evades with swift legwork, tearing the strings from the puppet, revealing Silva beneath. Suddenly, another puppet seizes Mash, snatching his coin and tossing it to Abel. Thrown against a pillar, Mash rises, apologizing for underestimating the puppet's strength. Without warning, he steps on Abel's head and decides to take him to the infirmary. Abel ponders if Mash is surrendering his coin, but Mash clarifies he's merely prioritizing, vowing never to lose regardless of his foe's might. As Mash departs with Silva, Abel senses something amiss. He notices a missing button from his puppet, finding it in his hand instead of Mash's coin. One of the students can't believe what just happened. As the puppet was flicking the coin, Mash ripped its button off, spitting it out at an incredible speed, hitting the coin in midair and sucking his coin back to himself. The girl can't believe it, and Abel finds Mash interesting. At the infirmary, Silva suddenly wakes up, wondering what happened, because he has no memory of anything after he was turned into a doll. But he sees Mash working out in front of him, and he realizes Mash must have saved him. He asks why Mash would save him when they were just enemies. But Mash says that when one is in trouble, they are all in trouble. Seeing he is okay, Mash decides to leave, and Silva reflects on his actions. Meanwhile, in Mash's dorm room, we see Lance and Barrett in a heated discussion. Lance comments on his new hairstyle, and Barrett says it's none of his business, but he thinks Lemon prefers guys with bangs. Finn wonders why they're in his room, but Barrett, irked by Lance's seemingly charmed life thanks to his good looks, grows angry. Lance, eager to teach him a lesson, prepares to fight, but Mash intervenes, warning them not to break anything in his room. Mash savors a cream puff, thinking it's just another tranquil day. Suddenly, Lemon bursts in with urgent news, leading them to a magical scale. The scale reveals the gold coin tally for each dorm. Langdorm boasts 15, while Alder and Orca dorms have only 1 each. Langdorm has been seizing coins from the other dorms, and with all Alder's upperclassmen Away on internships, Lang is poised to produce the next divine visionary. Orca Dorm is too engrossed in their research to intervene, leaving it to them to stop Lang. Fired up, the guys resolve to crush Lang Dorm, but Mash ends up in the Owl Hut, learning that the headmaster has punished him, requiring him to clean the Owl Hut for a week. The owls peck at him, and he thinks about how they were just getting fired up. Lance decides to join him, saying that the Lang students might target him since he has a coin, so he can use that as a chance to hunt them. But Mash thinks he is just worried about him. Meanwhile, we see two Lang students approaching, preparing themselves to take Mash's coin. The owls keep pecking at Mash, and water suddenly appears underneath him, and he falls in, while Lance dodges a giant spinning blade. Mash struggles in the water, and the two Lang students introduce themselves as Andrew and Shinri, the 6th and 7th fangs of the Magia Lupus, challenging them to a fight while wagering a gold coin. Mash says he's never swum. As he sinks into the water, Andrew transforms into a shark and jumps into some water to go after Mash, leading Shinri to face off against Lance. Shinri attacks with his blade, but Lance dodges, thinking his magic to control his spinning blade is pretty weak compared to his gravity magic. But as he goes to cast his spell, he is distracted by the owls. He dodges another attack and tries to focus on casting his spell, but he thinks of his sister, telling him not to harm the owls. With a ferocious flurry, Shinri unleashed his double blades, catching Lance off guard as he was distracted by the owls behind him. The blades found their mark, striking Lance. Shinri, observing Lance's wand, crafted from magnolia, discerned his heritage from the illustrious Crown family, renowned for their gravity magic. Rumors had whispered of the Crown heir's flight from home, presumed weak. Shinri relished the thought of besting a crown. Summoning his magic, Lance cast a spell, but only a shovel clattered to the ground, much to Shinri's scorn. Determined to end it, Shinri attacked with triple blades, yet a sense of unease gnawed at him. The owls had gathered suspiciously in one spot. Lance's gravity spell activated, crushing the blades. He revealed his ploy. The owls were drawn by a spilled bag of feed, cleverly maneuvered by the dropped shovel. Enraged, Shinri struck with his mightiest blade, only to be effortlessly subdued by Lance's gravity magic. Stunned, Shinri couldn't fathom the vast chasm in their power despite their equal markings. Lance declared that those who fight for self, glory could never rival one who battles to save a beloved sister. Meanwhile, Andrew gloats about trapping Mash in his sea field, saying there is no way to escape. But Mash suddenly zooms past, and Andrew is shocked at the speed, not even able to see what it was. He thinks he must be imagining things, but Mash zooms right past him once again. He thinks about how Mash said he didn't know how to swim, but Mash says he got the hang of it, thanking him for helping him realize he could swim. Mash continues to swim all around him, and Andrew feels like he is the one getting hunted, so he uses another spell to transform into a more monstrous form. But Mash crashes into him, continuously hitting him as he swims. Andrew can't handle the blows, and Mash ends up escaping the sea field. Lance takes their coin, and they think they weren't that strong for being members of the Magia Lupus. Mash thinks they aren't a big deal, but suddenly, another one of their members appears. In the blink of an eye, he slipped past them both. Lance tried to summon his gravity magic, but to his bewilderment, it failed him. Mash swiftly donned his gear, charging with all his might, yet the man deftly evaded him. Lance pondered if their foe wielded some form of teleportation magic. The enigmatic figure then uncorked a magic bottle, absorbing his comrades within. With a cryptic farewell, he promised a future encounter, leaving Lance to contemplate the formidable challenge that Magia Lupus would pose. As the masked man retreated, a fissure appeared on his mask, his thoughts drifting to Mash's remarkable speed without the aid of magic. He mused on the possibility that they might share a unique trait. That night, the man confronted a student from the Orca dorm, demanding his gold coin. The student launched a fierce magma magic attack, but the man remained unscathed, swiftly defeating his opponent and lamenting the brevity of the battle. Elsewhere, we see a puppet in the robes of a student wandering through the school. The next day, Lance plans how they should deal with the Magia Lupus. We learn the location of each dorm is hidden, so Lance suggests finding the Lang dorm and going on the offensive to take their coins, but Mash is too busy making cream puffs. Lance gives him a new robe, and Mash notices it has a logo on the back. Lance tells him it's the mark of Adler, hoping it will remind him that he belongs to their dorm. Lemon suddenly bursts in, telling them something happened to Tom. They visit him in the infirmary and find he looks completely drained. Tom says he has no memory of how he ended up in the infirmary, but notes that he normally lives his life at full throttle, so he usually falls right asleep and doesn't dream. But last night, he dreamt he was trapped in a dark box, feeling conscious, but he couldn't do anything. Lemon wonders how he is feeling, and Tom says he is okay, but it seems he is temporarily unable to use magic, feeling as though his magic energy has been drained from him. It was unveiled that several other students were plagued by the same malady, a curse that seemed to have begun when the headmaster was summoned by the Bureau of Magic. In a tender moment, Lemon bestowed upon Mash a cream puff lucky charm, making him swear not to undertake any perilous endeavors. She urged him to keep it with him always as a token of her, though she struggled to envision him dreaming of her. As night fell, Lance and Mash roamed the school grounds, searching for the Lang dormitory. Barrett and Finn soon joined their quest, Barrett driven by the lure of coins, and Finn unwilling to face solitude in his chamber. During their exploration, they encountered Lemon. Barrett eagerly approached her, but Lance sensed something amiss. Lemon's form twisted and convulsed. She had been transformed into a puppet. The group managed to evade her gaze as she continued on her way. Barrett, undeterred, found her endearing even in her altered state. They resolved to follow her, but upon turning a corner, they were met with a dead end. Finn hears the crackling of her body, and Lance uses Revelio, which reveals a hidden door. Lance notes they need another spell to open the door, and Barrett tries using his fireballs to blow it open, but the door doesn't even budge, and he wonders how they are going to get in. But Mash grabs a suit of armor, throwing it down next to the door, and he is able to crack it open. He sticks the sword inside, using it as a lever, and he steps on it, blowing the door right out of the school and creating a huge hole in the roof. Lance notes that the Magia Lupus is probably waiting for them inside, and Mash looks at his good luck charm, thinking he won't be able to keep his promise to Lemon. The group heads in, and they are surprised there was a hidden space under the school. They see light at the end of the tunnel, and they come out to an arena. A student named Getsuku appears and tells them they need to defeat him in order to continue. Lance is about to fight, but Barrett decides to step in, since he has a grudge against good-looking guys. Barrett laments about the ease of his life, but Getsuku believes it's merely envy. With a swift motion, Getsuku transforms his wand into a rose whip, and the two prepare for battle. Meanwhile, at the Bureau of Magic, Headmaster Wahlberg engages in a grave discussion with the director. Wahlberg senses the urgency of his summons, and the director confirms his fears. 6 of the most infamous criminals on death row have broken free from their prison, aided by the enigmatic Innocent Zero, leaving a trail of slain guards. Back at the arena, Barrett unleashes a fireball attack, which is swiftly intercepted by Getsuku's vines. The vines strike out, and Barrett narrowly evades their grasp. Undeterred, Barrett remains confident, launching another volley of fireballs. They land around Getsuku, forming a circle of marks. Barrett warns him to tread carefully, revealing the fireballs now possess quintuple their usual power. Getsuku thinks it's a lame trap, but Barrett is sure he will fall for it. Getsuku wonders if Barrett has a way to move him into the trap, but he attacks with his rose whip. Barrett tries to defend himself, but his fireballs aren't very effective, and he gets hit by the vines. Barrett gets grabbed, and he even drops his wand. Getsuku throws the thorns on his vines, stabbing Barrett with the spikes. Getsuku tells him the fight is over and goes to finish him off, but Barrett activates his trap card, causing a huge explosion from one of the marks. Getsuku's wand is destroyed, and Barrett mentions he never said anything about stepping on the marks, revealing that his spell was actually a time bomb. He activates his remaining marks, and Getsuku can't believe he lost to someone like him. The marks go off and cause a huge explosion. Finn congratulates him, and Barrett is excited to face another opponent. But Getsuku poses, even though he is defeated, and the group suddenly starts sinking into the ground. In a desperate attempt to save his precious cream puff, Mash finds himself and his companions swallowed by the earth, only to land on the floor below, now separated from one another. Lance feels a surge of formidable energy and soon faces Maddle, the third fang of Magia, Lupus. Meanwhile, Barrett and Finn, who have landed together, encounter Milo and Love, the fourth and fifth fangs. Finn despairs, believing their fate is sealed, but Barrett reassures him, invoking the power of a protagonist's resolve. Elsewhere, Mash lands in a shadowy chamber, pondering the whereabouts of his allies. The chamber illuminates, revealing a masked figure who introduces himself as Razor, the second fang of Magia Lupus. Razor praises Mash's agility from their previous encounter, but seems to have discerned Mash's inability to wield magic, causing Mash to fear his secret is out. The scene shifts to Mal, who expounds on the philosophy that strength reigns supreme and the weak hold no value in their world. Lance isn't interested and attacks using his gravity magic, but Mal gets squished into mud and seeps into the ground. Maddle reappears behind him with a number of clowns, calling his gravity magic interesting, and they charge at him. Lance defends himself with his spell, squashing them back into mud, but Maddle tells him it's useless as the mud starts to reform, attacking with a spike, which Lance barely avoids. Lance thinks he needs to attack the real body to stop the clowns, so he decides to attack the whole field with his magic. But Maddle reappears behind him once again, catching him with his mud, and Maddle attacks with a barrage of hardened mud balls. Maddle thinks Lance is pretty skilled, but says his talent is being wasted, so he invites him to serve the Magia Lupus. Maddle expounds that a mage's growth is shaped by their surroundings and the company they keep. He derides everyone in the Adler dorm as worthless, taunting Lance that their influence will only drag him down. He brags about the unparalleled talent, superior educational tools, and potent elixirs within Magia Lupus. Unfazed, Lance retorts that his power is not bound by his environment, deeming Maddle inferior. With a fierce assault, Lance hurls Maddle into the wall, revealing Maddle's muddy form, which has coated the room to cushion any blows. Confident against gravity magic that slams foes into the ground, Maddle believes victory is assured. But Lance shifts his tactics, launching stones instead, unraveling Maddle's ploy. Forced out of hiding, Maddle hears Lance declare that his strength must be superior, proving he has thrived in a greater environment. But Maddle tells him not to get cocky, as he takes out a potion of magical essence that was extracted from the other students. He drinks the potion, causing his power to surge, and he uses an advanced form of his magic, known as Secundith. He creates an enormous demon mud monster, and he goes on to explain that there are different tiers in magic. Secundith magic can only be cast by double liners, and only by the few that are worthy. Maddle thinks back to when he was a child, and his father explains that his worth is solely based on his aptitude for magic, so he has been focused on getting his father's approval. He thinks he is worthy after achieving this level of magic, telling Lance he will never be as strong since he hangs out with other failures. But Lance dodges his attack, thinking about how Meaning Mash helped him improve, as he reveals he can also use Secundith magic, creating gravity pillars that surround Maddle's monster. The monster is pulled by gravity from all sides by each of the pillars, and Lance creates one more above it, causing the monster to be ripped apart. Maddle couldn't believe his defeat. His thoughts drifted to memories of his father, a man who never acknowledged him, no matter the triumphs he achieved. It struck Maddle that his father might have been right, that perhaps he was indeed worthless. Suddenly, Lance tossed him a well-worn book, a testament to his relentless efforts. Lance remarked on the book's condition, recognizing the hard work that brought Maddle to this point. Lance shared that his family, too, measured worth by position and social standing, hinting at a similar upbringing. Yet, he reflected on his sister, who aspired to be a singer, valuing her passion above societal status. This realization led Lance to appreciate the true importance of personal effort. Although he couldn't align with Maddel's mindset, he respected his dedication. Lance then departed to seek his friends. Meanwhile, Mash fretted over Razor, possibly uncovering his secret. Razor, sensing a kinship in their mutual rejection by the world, declared his own reasons for being there. As the two prepared for battle, Mash gets changed into his workout gear, charging with a kick that pushes Razor back. But Razor suddenly dashes right past him, cutting him in the process. Razor tells him he can't win, as we see his magic that boosts his speed. He dashes all around, landing multiple hits, and he says they are on different levels. Mash refuses to give up, and Razor thinks his dream to live peacefully with his family is disgusting because they have similar circumstances, but Mash was lucky with the people around him. He tells Mash to show him what he can do, revealing that Lemon is being drained of her magic power, and after 30 minutes, she will have no magic, just like him. Mash swears he will beat him, and Razor goes all out with his magic, repeatedly slashing Mash as he dashes all around him. Mash can't even defend himself and ends up getting stabbed in the stomach. Razor says he is too weak to save anyone, but his sword gets stuck as Mash clenches his abs. This lets Mash grab onto him, and he headbutts Razor in the face, breaking his mask and revealing his face. His eye is red, but Mash thinks it's just bloodshot and asks if he is okay. Razor reveals that his eye, known as the Evil Eye, possesses the dark power to nullify any magic, a gift seen as diabolical, branding him an outcast. Apologizing, Mash acknowledges that the eye's power holds no sway over him. Razor explains that he is the bane of all magicians, feared and loathed throughout his life. His own family feared him, making him believe he should never have been born. Razor assumes Mash, blessed with a loving father, couldn't possibly understand. He then activates his secondary magic, creating a mystical field around them, and a spectral arrow materializes on Mash's body. In a flash, Razor strikes again, explaining that within the field, Mash's speed is siphoned off and transferred to Razor, leaving Mash defenseless. Razor declares the end is near, but Mash smashes the ground, splitting the floor and shattering Razor's sword. Razor realizes that by splitting the floor, his movements were limited. He thinks about pulling back, but Mash steps on his foot, stopping him from running. Mash activates his muscle magic, delivering a devastating smash that blows Razor right out of the field. His spell is broken, and Mash chases him down, kicking him in the back. He gets thrown away, but thinks that if he loses, he will also lose his reason to live. So he tries to fight back, and the two clash, but Mash catches his sword, smashing him into the wall. And Mash proceeds to smash him around all over the place, finishing things off with a submission attack. As Razor lies on the ground, he wishes he was born normal. We learn his evil eye manifested when he was a child, and his parents locked him up in the basement so people wouldn't find out about him. But after some time, his parents even tried to kill him, and he came to the realization that he should never have been born. But he was given purpose by Abel, even if he was being used as a tool. It gave him a reason to live. But now that he has failed, he thinks he is back to being unwanted. Seeing how fortunate he is to have his father, Mash offers his hand in friendship to Razor. Razor, however, deems it futile, believing that in time, Mash's feelings will alter. Though grateful for the gesture, Razor warns Mash not to proceed, cautioning that Abel is a foe of a different caliber, far beyond Mash's reach. Undeterred, Mash thanks him, but resolves to press on, asserting that his feelings remain steadfast regardless of others' opinions. He invites Razor to share cream puffs next time they meet. Meanwhile, Barrett and Finn face off against Milo and Love, unaware that another student has uncovered the secret door and plans to enter. Love, perceiving Barrett and Finn as single-liners, thinks them easy prey. Milo leaves her to handle them alone, seeking Mash instead. Love immediately inquires if they like her, baffling Barrett and Finn, who admit they don't even know her. She then shifts her question, asking if they find her cute. Barrett can tell she is trying to be manipulative, but he thinks she is totally his type. However, he claims Lemon is already his fiancée, so he can't be with her, and Love immediately tells him to die. Barrett is shocked she changed so quickly, and Love attacks with her tornado magic. Barrett counters with a fireball, but he can tell there is a big difference in their power. Love claims that all women are queens, saying any guy who can't tell them they are cute and serve them doesn't deserve to live. Barrett thinks she is being too extreme, and Love asks them if they like her once again. Barrett tries to resist her, saying he already has Lemon, and Finn thinks it must be deja vu. Barrett gets hit by Love's tornado magic and gets blown away. Love claims her father told her she can kill anyone who doesn't cherish her, but Barrett gets back up, attacking with his fireballs. Love says his magic is too weak, but the fireballs land short, causing a smokescreen instead. Barrett lunges for a wand, but Love blows him away, knocking him down. Love reveals Milo's power to turn a specific target to stone, and since Mash opened the door, he will turn to stone if they don't defeat Love and stop Milo within 30 minutes. Love traps Barrett in a tornado cage, telling him it's impossible to escape. Barrett struggles, while Love pities Mash for having such weak friends, calling him a fool for challenging Abel. Barrett feels like he's about to die, thinking there's nothing he can do. He recalls a childhood memory of being bullied until his sister defended him, urging him to fight back. She warned that giving up easily would be problematic when he gains a true friend who stands up for him. Inspired by how Mash stood up for him, Barrett refuses to let Love mock his friend. As Love goes to finish Finn off, Barrett breaks free from her tornado cage. Love is shocked. He broke her spell. She attacks with her tornado, but Barrett easily cancels it out. She wonders how his power has suddenly increased, and she notices the mark on his head, recognizing it as the warding cross, which some children are born with and are considered battle demons who can unleash their magic power when their emotions cross a certain point. Barrett says it's a crime to insult his friends as he creates countless fireballs around the arena. Love panics, and Barrett claims he is the main character as he attacks with his fireballs. There is a huge explosion, but when the smoke clears, it seems he intentionally missed, and he says he doesn't like hurting girls, so he tells her to just leave. With heartfelt gratitude, Love thanks him for his mercy, while Finn marvels at his solitary victory over her. He praises Barrett, but suddenly, a stone head materializes behind him. Barrett, acting swiftly, shoves Finn aside and takes the brunt of the attack. Milo returns, bewildered by the chaos, and Love expresses regret for her defeat. Barrett is relieved Milo has abandoned his attempt to turn Mash to stone, but Milo, undeterred, conjures numerous stone hands to strike. Barrett feels his strength waning, and Love dubs Milo a prodigy, the only first year among the Magia Lupus, leaving her hopeless. As the stone hands close in, Milo is abruptly impaled by a sword and hurled away. Finn recognizes the blade, and Milo, stunned, realizes he faces last year's divine visionary, Rain. It is revealed that Rain is the ace of Alderdorm and Finn's older brother. Milo tries to regain his composure, thinking he is just a student. He attacks with his stone head, but Rain easily splits it in half. Rain summons countless swords, showing his overwhelming power, and he attacks Milo with all his swords. Barrett is amazed by the power of a divine visionary, and Love immediately decides to defect from the Lang dorm. As the dust clears, Milo realizes he stands no chance, so he starts begging for his life, saying he was forced into being bad and he regrets his actions. But Rain kicks him, saying that actions speak louder than words, and he doesn't believe him as he keeps on stomping on him to teach him a lesson. Barrett is shocked by how brutal he is, wondering if they are really on the same side. Rain tells them to get out, saying he will handle the rest, and Love quickly runs away. After his interrogation, Rain heads deeper into the dungeon, and we learn that he was sent by Headmaster Wahlberg because they had a lead on Innocent Zero and his pawns should be in the area. He thinks they could be hiding their magic power, but he suddenly runs into Mash, who is eating a cream puff, and Rain finds he has a strange aura. He thinks Mash could be one of the pawns, so he summons a spider which can measure his magic power to see if he is really a student. Rain strikes with his sword, but Mash effortlessly catches it, puzzled by the situation. The spider senses zero magic from Mash and assumes it must be a mistake. Rain, undeterred, attacks again, using 3% of his power. The blow lands on Mash, but he merely transforms the swords into a chair. The spider still detects no magic, prompting Rain to test him once more. This time, he uses 10% of his power. The spider deems Mash's chances hopeless, but Mash practices his swing and assumes a bunting stance. He successfully bunts all the swords, causing them to fall harmlessly. Rain, intrigued, asks for his name. Upon hearing it, Rain recalls Wahlberg mentioning a unique new student. Rain apologizes for his aggression, but Mash refuses to accept it. Feeling remorseful, Rain offers Mash a magic handkerchief with healing powers. Mash, thinking Rain must like rabbits, thanks him for the gift. Rain then warns Mash about Abel, leaving Mash to wonder how he knows. Rain reveals that Wahlberg told him about his goal to become the next divine visionary, so it's natural for him to be up against Abel, who currently holds the most coins. Rain supports his goal to become a divine visionary, wanting more allies that are strong. He warns Mash about Abel's dull magic, saying he might struggle against him because he has no magic, but Mash insists that he does. Rain wishes him luck, saying he has other things to do, and Mash thanks him for his help, but Rain claims he did everything for his own sake. We see Wahlberg telling him about how Mash puts his friends above himself, and how he even saved his brother, so Rain is rooting for him to achieve his goal. Mash finds the final room, wondering if the door is a push or a pull. He guesses correctly, but he thinks about Lemon and ends up blowing the door open. Abel muses over whether he holds some grudge against doors, to which Mash retorts that he was merely attempting to knock. Abel, taken aback, marvels at Mash's victory over Razor, believing only Rain could match Razor's formidable gaze. Abel speculates that Mash might possess the prowess of a divine visionary, yet Mash is more concerned that Abel has discovered his secret. However, relief washes over Mash as Abel merely acknowledges his strength, considering him a peer among the elite. Abel's thoughts then drift to his grand scheme of eliminating the weak, who he believes have exploited their benevolence, thereby diminishing their collective strength. He aims to eradicate those who cannot wield magic, as mere segregation isn't sufficient. Abel's purge extends to underperformers and protectors of the weak, causing Mash to reminisce about Burn's kindness. Even as a child, performing backflips, Mash was given his first taste of a cream puff by Burned Puff by Burned, who proudly called him son. This reflection cements Mash's resolve that he cannot ally with Abel. Abel says he just doesn't understand, calling him dense, so he decides Mash's inferior genes need to be eliminated. As he sends his puppets to attack, we see Love as she goes to find Abel. She is relieved. She managed to get away from Rain, but she finds the door to Abel's room broken, and she is shocked to see Mash fighting against Abel. Mash crushes one of the puppets, but acid suddenly spills out from it, and Abel tells him he should be more careful. However, Mash grabs onto the head of the puppet he destroyed. Love wonders what Mash can do against the acid puppets, but Mash throws the head and ends up bowling over all the acid puppets in a single strike. Love can't believe what she just witnessed, and Mash wonders if Abel would consider himself inferior if he loses. He also wonders what Abel has done with Lemon, but Abel claims he doesn't know who he is talking about as he summons his stronger puppets. He thinks Mash doesn't stand a chance, but the puppets get sent flying, and Abel realizes Mash has gotten even stronger since their last meeting. Mash demands that if he wins, Abel must let Lemon go. Abel, impressed by Mash's prowess, summons his most formidable puppet, Mash himself. Mash begins to pummel his own body, unable to control his actions as strings bind him. As he strangles himself, the strings abruptly snap. Abel, apologizing for such a crude, one-sided method, introduces Finn, whom he captured and transformed into a puppet. Barrett was also captured, but his injuries rendered him useless. Finn, however, will serve as the entertainment. Abel sends Finn to attack, and Mash blocks it. Abel warns that if Mash blocks again, he will tear Finn apart. Enduring the assault, Mash faces Abel's taunts about the true nature of people. Finn's axe shatters against Mash, who remains unfazed. Finally, Mash produces a gold coin, prompting Abel to wonder if he is ready to surrender it. Mash flicks it at him, but it actually cuts the strings controlling Finn, and Finn starts to transform back into a human. The coin returns to Mash, and he claims that the coin must just like him better. Abel uses his technique to control Mash once again, deciding that he is done messing around. Mash tries to resist, but Abel calls it useless, saying it's impossible for a human to resist his power. Mash says he will make him regret messing with his friends, as he is able to take a step, breaking one of Abel's fingers. Mash gets into position as Abel struggles to hold him back, as Mash breaks free and smashes him in the face. However, Abel activates his skill, and Mash starts to turn into a puppet. Abel is impressed. Mash managed to make him use this spell, but Mash is completely transformed into a puppet, and he says it's all over. Abel goes to take Mash's coin, but it turns out to just be a cream puff, and Abel is confused. He suddenly gets punched, and Mash returns to being a human, glad that his cream puff is okay. Abel marveled at how Mash moved like a puppet despite his puppet magic, which should have blocked the brain's electrical signals, rendering Mash immobile. It dawned on him that it must have been a spinal reflex, akin to withdrawing one's hand from a flame or jerking a foot when the knee is tapped, actions that bypass the brain to swiftly counter external threats. The trigger, it seemed, was the theft of Mash's cherished cream puff. Love found it absurd that the cream puff held such significance. Recognizing Mash's resilience, Abel resolved to harness the power he had siphoned from other students. He unleashed his second spell, conjuring a colossal puppet with the terrifying ability to transform anyone within a 100-meter radius into a puppet. Abel explained that the puppet would deploy invisible strings that would ensnare and manipulate anyone on contact. Love, realizing she was within the danger zone, grew anxious. Abel boasted that his attack was inescapable, declaring that once ensnared, Mash would be endlessly tormented beyond any hope of recovery. The strings descend, covering the entire area, and Abel says Mash should be happy he made him use his ultimate skill, but his doll is somehow destroyed, and Mash is revealed to be fine. Abel wonders how he is still human, and Mash says he just tore the strings. Abel thinks it should be impossible, since the strings are invisible when they descend, so a normal person should not be able to stop them. Love is shocked by what actually happened, and we see Mash shifted his body in a particular way so that the strings touched him at different times. So the moment he felt the string on his left side, he instantly tore them when he still had control of his right hand. Love can't believe this insane strategy, and Abel wonders if Mash is even human. He tries attacking with his puppet, but Mash completely shatters it, and he appears behind Abel. Love grabs onto him, jumping up into the air, and he smashes Abel into the ground. In a flashback, we learn about Abel's mother. She was a kind and compassionate person, and although she was a noble, she treated the commoners just as equally, saying that it was only by chance that they were born privileged. Yet one fateful day, she was stabbed. As she was distributing food to the poor, as she often did, one among them grew greedy, desiring all the food for himself. When she resisted, still believing in humanity's inherent goodness, he stabbed her. After she was taken away, Abel began to believe that the weak needed to be purged. He gathered the most talented individuals to join him, those equally dissatisfied with the state of the world. He adamantly maintained that it was natural for the strong to take from the weak. However, Mash disagreed, arguing that evil exists regardless of social standing. After winning their fight, Mash demanded to know Lemon's location. Abel agreed to release all the students, and Mash, seeing Abel's devotion to his mother, thought he wasn't entirely bad. Abel then lifted his spell, revealing Lemon, and Mash caught her. Finn regains consciousness, and the three are glad to be reunited. They all celebrate, and Finn and Lemon call Mash a hero. Finn is in tears, thanking Mash, and Lemon apologizes for getting him involved, and she thanks him for saving her. Barrett comes crawling over as well, saying he also helped, and they continue to celebrate together. Abel can't believe he lost to such buffoons, and Finn wonders what happened to Lance. We see Lance in the dungeon, and he runs into Rain. Lance suddenly blocks his attack, and Rain is surprised he could counter his magic. His spider companion reveals his power is through the roof, and we learn that it's not actually Lance, but one of Innocent Zero's associates. The man wonders how Rain saw through his disguise, but Rain is just attacking first and asking questions later, saying that it's faster that way. Rain wonders what Innocent Zero wants from the school. The man reveals they are searching for something. Abel was meant to help them look, but he turned out to be no help, so he is off to kill Abel since they no longer need him. Rain tries to go after him, but he gets stopped by a giant knife. The man strides ahead, and we behold Rain, now facing another adversary. Yet, his mind is troubled for Mash and his companions, for the approaching figure wields power rivaling that of a divine visionary. Bernd and Brad, meanwhile, muse over Mash's fate at the academy, hoping his lack of magic remains concealed. Bernd questions Brad's leisure, to which Brad retorts that he is merely seeking some screen time. Amidst their revelry, Mash and his friends are interrupted by Abel's impatience with their merriment. Excusing himself, Mash claims a need for the bathroom, much to his friend's relief at the ordeal's end. The students, once puppets, have returned to their normal state, only for the villains to rise anew. They question the stranger's identity, but he dismisses them effortlessly. Barrett contemplates a confrontation, but instantly perceives the stranger's overwhelming strength. The man approaches Abel, and we learn that his name is Cell. He sees that Abel lost against someone, and he calls Abel pathetic for not being able to reach the top at the school. Cell thanks him for his intel about the headmaster, but he suddenly controls Abel's hands, and Abel starts choking himself. Cell says he couldn't find the one they were looking for, so he is no longer needed. Abel is about to die, but Mash suddenly returns with a plate of cream puffs, ready to continue their celebration. His friends tell him it's not the time for that, and a fly suddenly lands on his nose. It tickles his nose, causing Mash to sneeze, and he throws the cream puffs at Cell. His friends wonder if it was just a coincidence, and Abel manages to get free. Mash demands the return of his cream puffs, leaving his friends astounded by his singular focus. In a shocking move, Cell throws the cream puffs to the ground, causing Mash to tense. As Cell experiences a sudden headache, he begins to suspect Mash is the one he's been seeking. Resolute, Cell lifts Abel into the air, intent on finishing what he started. Mash rushes to Abel's aid, but Razor intervenes to protect him. Mash hurries over, and Razor apologizes, lamenting that he won't be able to enjoy a cream puff with him. Mash hands Razor his magical handkerchief, and Cell is taken aback that his attack wasn't fatal. He realizes Mash had thrown a rock, disrupting his spell's trajectory. Standing his ground, Mash smashes the earth, kicking a rock at Cell. To everyone's astonishment, Cell catches the rock and begins to lick it, leaving Mash to simply find him odd for such a bizarre act. Cell tells him Razor only has 30 minutes before he is beyond help, so he wonders what Mash will be able to do. He starts attacking with his magic, which Mash smashes with his fists. Cell wonders if he is all talk, combining his magic into a stronger attack, and Mash gets hit. Abel thinks Mash can't win because there is too much of a difference between them. He thinks back to how his mother would tell him that it was only by chance that they were privileged, and he thinks Cell is just superior to them, so he thinks they have no chance. Cell continues to launch his attacks, but Mash keeps on blocking the attacks. Abel thinks Razor was a fool for saving him, but Mash says Razor was happy. He says Razor was always alone, but Abel was able to give him a reason to keep living, and he was happy to be needed. Mash says he would feel the same way, imagining himself in Razor's situation. Abel remembers that his mother would also tell him to put himself in another's position so that he can become kinder to others. Mash continues the battle, revealing the fear that had haunted Razor his entire life. Razor, perpetually isolated and regretting his existence, found solace and purpose upon meeting Abel, who accepted him. Razor urges Abel to escape while he still can, prompting Abel to regard Razor as noble like his mother. As Mash struggles to defend himself, Cell mocks his efforts, questioning if defense is all he can muster. Abel perceives Mash's inability to close the distance, and as Cell grows bored, he launches even larger projectiles. The situation looks dire for Mash until Abel's doll unexpectedly shields him. Abel commands his doll to attack, but Cell effortlessly destroys it with his magic. Declaring Abel's efforts futile, Cell is taken aback when one of the doll's heads moves, revealing Mash hiding inside. Mash strikes Cell in the face, surprising him as his armor barely withstands the blow. Cell, puzzled by Mash's power, dismisses it and prepares a mirror. Barrett recognizes it as the Spellflexion Mirror, a magic item that can reflect any kind of magic, so it's the most feared item among magic users. Barrett warns Mash, and Cell tells him to do his worst, saying he will be crushed by his own magic, but Mash smashes right through it. His friends become shocked, realizing Mash's power isn't magical, and they remember his past feats, and they think he is something out of a fairy tale. Cell is unfazed by Mash's attack, but he suddenly notices a mark forming on his hand, so he confirms Mash is really the one they are looking for. The room suddenly shatters, and two giant hands appear. Cell claims he has an urgent errand to run, but tells Mash he will see him again real soon. Cell disappears, and Mash is glad it's over. Abel heads to the infirmary with Razor, and Razor hopes to have cream puffs with Mash the next time they meet. Abel expressed his gratitude to Mash and vowed to return the favor one day. Mash's companions surrounded him, still surprised by his lack of magical abilities. They worry about the consequences if his secret is discovered, causing Mash to nervously assert that he can actually use magic. His friends are determined to protect his secret, but a fellow student overhears the conversation, wakes up, and threatens to expose Mash's lack of magic. As Mash prepares for the inevitable, his friends worry about what his next move will be. Unfazed, Mash decided this was the perfect time to eat a cake. And thus, this story temporarily ends, predicting a new season in 2024. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.